Okay, thank you very much. First, before I start this presentation, I'd like to thank the British Council for the kind invitation to speak to you today, to share some of our experiences. It's always very nice to come back to Thailand, to visit friends and to make new collaborations. When I was asked to give this presentation, I was asked to think about and to explain to you not just how we're approaching TNE at Liverpool, but why we're approaching TNE. And I think it's important then, if you're thinking of developing any TNE initiatives between the UK and Thailand, is to think why you want to do it. The how is a matter of process, but why is very, very important to consider right at the beginning. So what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about Liverpool's approach to partnerships. And this is a word we've heard already a number of times here today. And it's a word I'm going to stress throughout my presentation here, is the importance of approaching this as a partnership. And a partnership then has benefits for both sides. And I think, again, that's important when you're thinking why you're undertaking the TNE program. I'm going to talk about our current TNE arrangements, our links with Thailand, and hopefully then the broader benefits of what TNE can bring to both institutions if we think about and plan it carefully and go into the TNE for the right reasons. The next couple of slides are kind of Liverpool corporate slides. So these aren't slides I've prepared specifically for today, but this is what our university would want people like me to say when we go and give talks around the world. Partnerships are key to what we do as a university. And I'm sure every university in the UK would say the same thing. Our partnerships are important for research, for contracts, and these are some of the bigger partnerships that we have, primarily driven by research, but also clearly have benefits for students. Some of those partnerships are very, very large, and many of those partnerships are international. I don't know the numbers of international partners that we have. Some of them are very large. For example, we have a partner university in China, which takes about 12,000 students a year, and about 2,500 of those students are at Liverpool on campus studying for a dual award with us. That's a big partnership. We have another partnership with, which helps us deliver online programs. We have 10,000 students registered for University of Liverpool degrees online, and we have a number of smaller partnerships around the world and are developing. The partnerships are important, not only for teaching and research, but if you look at, for example, how our research benefits from these partnerships. This slide's a few years old now, but we have at least 8,000 publications that are jointly from Liverpool and international partners. We heard Dr. Bunda talking earlier about needing to rethink the way in which we approach education, and of course, at Liverpool, we're now it's very obvious to us that we talk about research and teaching as two separate things, but really they're connected. And what we're rightly doing now is not just teaching students, we are training the researchers of the future. And I think that's an important concept, I think, that you need to be thinking about, is that we're not just giving the students knowledge, we're training them to be researchers. So research and teaching now is very much intertwined. The students that benefit from our research collaborations will also then have an impact on the way in which they approach their education, their ability to think and their ability to solve problems and their ability to come up with innovative solutions. So I was asked to talk about our experiences with Thailand and how this journey started. And when I prepared these slides, I realized it was the 10th anniversary of my very first visit to Thailand to give this talk here today. How did it start? Well, at the time, I was the head of a School of Biological Sciences, and one of our PhD students, who was Thai, returned to Gasetsad University with his PhD and contacted me and said, look, Steve, you must come over to Thailand and see what we can offer you in terms of opportunities for students in particular. And so in the first visit in 2008, a group of us came across, and our colleague, Dr. Racha, organized a visit to a number of universities. Some of those universities we had more in common with than others. We revisited then in 2009 with a higher with a different delegation of staff, more senior staff. We had deans involved in that visit. We went back to some of the universities that we'd had the original contacts with because we thought we had more in common with those. And things really kicked off in 2010 when we started to really then get engaged with a number of institutions and to start the program off. And why did I think it was attractive? Well, I originally went thinking, what can I do to help our students in terms of their experiences, their opportunities? How could I make our courses more attractive? And importantly, how could I make our students gain skills then or gain experiences that would help them with employability? And one thing that for UK staff, when they come to Thailand for the first time, will see, for example, what fantastic opportunities there are for those students who are involved in ecological work, environmental work, or animals, plant or animal studies. And of course, there are fantastic facilities you have in Thailand in terms of field centres, natural resources, etc. And I thought this would be fantastic for our students to be able to come here and experience some of those opportunities. But also when we started talking more with the universities, it became very obvious, blindingly obvious, that we also had many shared research interests. You know, many of the things that we talked about in terms of our research were also being done in Thailand in a slightly different way, in a slightly different context, but nevertheless the same questions were being asked in terms of the research questions. And particularly in areas of human diseases, infectious diseases, virology, sustainable foods, for example, some of the strengths of my department at that time, there were obvious links. And so it was clear to me that there were not just opportunities for students, for our students to come to Thailand and gain great experiences, but also opportunities for our staff to get engaged with these exciting research programs. So we were looking to see how we could develop something very early on that would then not just be Thai students coming to Liverpool, but ways in which Liverpool students could come to Thailand and what benefits there would be for staff also. And our first activities were when students came over to work in biotech in 2010 and spent 6 weeks working in the laboratories there and gaining fantastic experiences, working alongside the researchers in biotech and you know, learning how to apply scientific knowledge into real applications, particularly here in areas of food production or for or cassava production, etc. So we really started then in 2009 with our first MOU with biotech, and that led then to the opportunities for Liverpool students to come to work with them. But then, of course, we then started working with other universities, worked with in 2010 with Chula to develop a joint PhD in biotechnology. Our first students on that program graduated 2 years ago. We then had a jointly funded PhD with Mahidol, and then we've developed other links then with Chiang Mai and Khon Kaen, which I'll talk a little bit about later. So what have we done with Chula? That really has expanded for a number of reasons, and I want to explain why we've expanded and why it's such an important partnership now for the University of Liverpool. It's established, it's expanding, it started very small, but now it's developing quite a lot. So our first was a joint PhD in biotechnology with the Faculty of Medicine. Then as a result of a British Council initiative, we then developed a dual PhD and a dual master's in both biotechnology and bioinformatics, and we recruited our first students to that this year. But importantly, we have a very, very active student exchange program. And each year, around 20 students in their fourth year of an integrated master's students spend time in the labs at Chula. And they join a research team, they work alongside master's students and PhD students to look at to work along their projects. But importantly, when they're at Liverpool, they're taking part, when they're at Chula, they're taking part in a Liverpool module. It's part of their course. So it's credit bearing. Liverpool does all the assessments, but it's done remotely at Chula. And of course, the students then have a fantastic experience working alongside the Thai researchers. I'll explain a little bit more about that later. But because of this exchange, we are lucky enough for our university to then waive tuition fees for incoming students to Liverpool. So it's an example of thinking, quite broadly about wider benefits and how then that can benefit students from both directions. Chula don't charge us a fee for the students that come to them, and we don't charge a fee when they come back to us. It's a special relationship, I know, but nevertheless one that has been founded on a broader interaction and partnership. So students spend a lot of time, many could come to Chula, but we've also, students have gone to Konkan and also to Chiang Mai, etc. They can come for 6 weeks where they get 30 Liverpool credits. They can come for 6 months where they'll get 60 Liverpool credits, or they can do their entire year here where they would then do some online modules. And we have a couple of students every year will do this. About 20 students or so will take that option for us. What do they do? Well, clearly they take part in fantastic research projects that they can't do in the UK. And that's the big benefit for students coming here. New opportunities, something very different to their experiences at Liverpool, working on all sorts of important areas in terms of environment, in terms of food production, and a relationship that we started with Konkan University, which we're developing, started with students going to Konkan for 6 weeks and getting engaged then and taking part in the project on liver flukes, which then led to a Newton grant and a wider development of partnerships. But of course also the students are going to have a wonderful time in terms of new opportunities, new cultural opportunities, making new friends, seeing parts of the world that they wouldn't normally see. So the time abroad for our students is hugely beneficial. Not only do they get good experiences and new opportunities to work in research on areas they would not be able to do in the UK, but this time abroad develops cultural awareness, it develops their employability skills, and of course makes them global graduates and overcomes some of the fears they may have had about working abroad or traveling abroad. So this is a big opportunity for students then to develop extra skills, but Liverpool students gaining as much from the opportunities as Thai students coming to the Liverpool. We've also then expanded on these links to have staff exchanges and teaching programs. Each year we run the bioinformatics workshops in Chula for postgraduate students and junior faculty. We run professional skills communication workshops. We've had research exchanges, medical student exchanges, etc., etc. The other benefits, of course, for this is that it's opened up new opportunities for research funding and new research collaborations. As you're probably aware, in the UK now we have a lot of funding is being channeled towards what's called the Grand Challenges Research Funding, trying to tackle global problems collectively. If we're trying to tackle one of these grand challenges, be it food or infection or climate change, clearly we can't do it alone. We need partners, and we need global partners. We also have a lot of Newton funding, institutional links, researchers links, etc., which are opportunities then to develop research collaborations, which again are long-lasting, sustainable relationships, which can then help join the universities for longer periods. And these are just some of the projects that we've had through various schemes with Thailand, which have been directly a consequence of us developing the initial student exchanges. We also have lots of publications now, a couple of dozen publications, which have been as a result of these partnerships. So what are we doing next? Well, we now would classify Chula and Liverpool as a deep partnership. It encompasses not only the initial programs that we had, it's developing new programs, it's mutual benefits for staff, for students, for research, not only new qualifications. We're developing new links in chemistry, marine sciences, architecture. At the moment, there's student exchange programs, but it's likely that some of those, particularly chemistry, are going to develop into a T&E program also. And we're also, of course, working with Chula now, looking at Thailand 4.0 and the EEC and seeing how we can then strengthen our partnership. How can we collectively help address some of those challenges faced with Thailand 4.0 and links with industry and equipping students for for careers in the future. And again, as Dr. Bundit has said, we don't know what those careers or skills are going to be yet. We have to make the students more receptive to change and more innovative and more used to problem solving. And we're also developing a deep partnership with Konkan University. Again, that's early stages, but nevertheless something that we're very, very keen to do because we can see huge advantages for our staff and students by a stronger partnership that can help us then with our research objectives as well as our teaching objectives. So in summary then, if you're thinking of a T&E program, or think of the mutual strengths. Why are you entering into this? It shouldn't be a one-way process. It should be benefits for both parties. But I would also recommend that you think of what could be a benefit to the institutions which are outside of the initial program or the T&E degree that you set up. And if you can do that, you're then going to get staff engaged on both sides because they will want to do it. It's, in my experience, partnerships driven from the top don't always work because you need people who have a genuine interest to make this collaboration work. That's where success comes from. So if you're thinking of a T&E, think of the broader partnership, broad advantages to both staff and students. And if it's like one message I can leave you with, think broadly, think of the mutual benefits, and then there's much more chance of success. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Stephen. We have time for questions. We are doing really, really well on time in terms of time.
I have more time to speak then.
Well, let's hear the questions from the floor, please. And also through the menti.com as well, please. Well, congratulations on 10th anniversary as well. Oh, okay. Here we go.
Can you also share with us some of the challenges in...
Oh, sure. I think we have a whole session next based on challenges. And of course, there are challenges. It may be more appropriate to discuss those challenges when we talk about specific things later at our little panel meeting. Clearly, there are challenges. There's financial issues, there's language issues, there's all sorts of administrative issues to solve. So yeah, we can talk in more detail about how we are trying to solve those problems and trying to make the processes as easy as we can. But I wouldn't want you to think there are no challenges. I'm also here for the rest of the day. If you don't have any formal questions now, you can approach me informally to ask any questions that you may have.
All right. Maybe one more question, please. All right.
Hello. Thank you so much for your talk today. I, as like a PhD student at Mahidol University, I have no doubt about the mutual benefits that my university can offer. But as a lecturer in like Phetchaburi Ratchapat University, we are like a local university. What would you suggest for us when we talk about mutual benefits? We cannot think of any, literally. So what would you suggest us to do in order to get these mutual benefits?
I think you need to think, let's supposing, as an example, that you want to develop a new program in line perhaps with Thailand 4.0. Let's take that as an example. What you need to be thinking about, I think, first is, can you deliver it with the staff you have? Okay, and there may be a program or a curriculum that you want to develop where you haven't got the staff that you need, but you really know what you want to do. So you have a strategy, you have a vision for what you want, but you may not be able to deliver it entirely yourself. Now, the first thing to do, I think, and I don't know if there's a new way of thinking in Thailand, is are there other universities in Thailand who could help you with that? Okay, and because there may well be expertise in another university very close to you that you can share to come up with a joint curriculum and perhaps a dual award that may be in Thailand. That's the first thing. It may be that you have a connection or you know of expertise in another country. It could be the UK, it could be the US, where they have that expertise that could help with that particular program. And then you go out and seek that or try to form that partnership. But you have a vision already. You don't just go and say, hey, let's do something together. You need to know what you want to do, why you want to do it, and why it's a benefit, and then you can find the right partner. Because if you can find the right partner and convince them then that between you, you have a shared vision of what you want to do and shared expertise, that can make a difference between someone saying, yes, we want to be part of this, or no, we've got too many things to consider, we have too many partnerships. We don't want to spread ourselves too thinly. We want to go for focused areas where we can both find a benefit. That may be a way forward.
Yeah,
but think of a
thank you so
strategy
much.
first.
All right, thank you. There is one quick question from the online Q&A system. How did you select the partners? What criteria?
Okay. Okay, that's a really good question. It relates to what I just said, I think, really, is why do we want to do it? What are we hoping to gain from it? And why is this something that we can't do on our own? Now, if we're thinking of student experience and the opportunities and benefits of students working abroad and getting more globally aware and culturally aware, then you need to think of a partner that's outside of Thailand. If you're thinking of how you're going to align for 4.0, you may not need to do that. So I think, again, it's thinking, what do I want to achieve from this? Why do we need to do it? Why can't we do this ourselves? What are the gaps we're trying to fill? So you must have a vision first. And if you have a vision, then you can identify what you want to complete, where the gaps are, and then find a partner who can help you with that. The benefit, though, I think, is that if you have one successful TNE, it's much, much easier then to expand that relationship. If I want to set up a new partnership, and I'm sure my UK colleagues will say the same here, setting up that initial partnership in the UK for the quality assurance and our partnerships committee takes a long time. And we have to convince them of the need, we have to convince them of the business model, we have to convince them of the broader benefits. But if you do it once for one university, getting another program in alongside that is much, much, much easier. And that's why it's easier to build partnerships than it is to create them.
Thank you very much, Professor Stephen Edwards. Thank you very much.